Long ago, in the heart of ancient Thebes, where the Nile flowed like a silver thread through the sands, lived a man named Keeper, a royal scribe in the court of Pharaoh Amenhotep. His hands were thin, his eyes sharp, and his ink never ran dry. For his duty was to turn the Pharaoh's will into words that would outlive the men who spoke them. Each morning, as the first rays of Ra pierced the columns of the temple, Keeper would whisper a prayer to Mut, goddess of truth and balance. He believed the universe itself rested on her feather, light, pure, and incorruptible. To write was to serve that balance. And so, every decree, every record, every simple line of ink was sacred to him. His fellow scribes laughed at his seriousness. "In this court, truth feeds no one," they said. "Write what you are told and you'll die in silk instead of sand." But Keeper only smiled. "Words are offerings," he replied. "And I will not offer lies to the gods." For years, he lived quietly, believing goodness was enough to protect him, until one command changed everything. One hot morning, the drums of judgment echoed through the palace halls. A caravan of gold, bound for the temple of Ptah, had vanished. Suspicion fell on the royal treasurer, a man who had once been Keeper's friend and mentor. The pharaoh's fury filled the air like fire. When Keeper was summoned, he felt the heat of power in the marble floor beneath his feet. The throne room glowed in gold and lapis. The pharaoh sat motionless, a living god surrounded by falcon banners. "My scribe," said Amenhotep, "you will write the confession of the thief. The people must know their ruler's justice." Keeper bowed low, but his voice trembled. "Majesty, I have spoken with the treasurer. He swears upon his cod that he is innocent." A wave of silence spread through the court. The pharaoh's eyes hardened. "Do you question me?" Keeper's mouth went dry. "I question only what is written in the heart, not what is spoken in fear." Gasps followed. The viziers exchanged glances. The pharaoh rose. "Then you will write what I command, or you will share his guilt." When the guards let him out, the sun seemed colder than before. That night, Keeper sat alone in the scriptorium. The air was heavy with the scent of ink and papyrus. The torchlight trembled on the walls, as if the gods themselves watched. He placed the blank scroll before him. If he wrote the lie, the treasurer would die, but he himself would live. If he refused, both might perish. His hand hovered over the ink. He whispered to the shadows, "What is truth if it must bow to fear?" Then sleep claimed him, and in his dream, he walked through a hall vast as eternity. Columns rose like mountains. The air shimmered with divine silence. There stood Anubis, the jackal-headed guardian of souls, beside the scales of Mut. On one side, a perfect white feather floated. On the other, Keeper's heart, small, trembling, heavy with doubt. "Why do you fear what you already know?" Anubis asked. "Because truth is light," said Keeper. "And I am not." The feather began to rise. His heart sank lower. He saw the treasurer's face, calm, trusting, and the ink on his hands turning red like blood. "Tell me," he begged, "how can I serve truth when truth will kill me?" Anubis lowered his gaze. "No one escapes the weighing. Some hearts die before the body. But remember, mortal, even the gods cannot read what is unwritten." Keeper awoke with tears in his eyes. The scroll before him was still blank. The next morning, the pharaoh sat again upon his throne. The court was gathered, waiting for the words that would condemn a man. Keeper entered slowly, holding the scroll. His hands no longer trembled. "Have you written the confession?" asked the pharaoh. "I have written the truth, Majesty," said Keeper. He unrolled the papyrus. The words shone black against the white. "The treasurer of the Nile is innocent. The true theft is the loss of justice in the hearts of men." Murmurs erupted through the hall. The pharaoh's face went pale, then crimson. "You dare shame your god-king before his court?" Keeper bowed. "I shame no one. I simply refuse to write a lie." The pharaoh stood, his voice a thunderclap. "Then let your truth bury you. Take him to the quarries." The guards seized him, but Keeper did not struggle. As they dragged him through the palace, his ink jar spilled, leaving a black trail across the golden floor. And when the scroll was thrown to the fire, one painted feather, drawn in his final stroke of ink, floated up through the smoke and vanished into the rafters. The desert swallowed him. He was chained among criminals and rebels, forced to carve stones for tombs that would never bear his name. The sun burned his skin, but not his faith. At night, while the others cursed, he whispered to the stars, "If the heart remembers Mott, it can never be truly buried." The guards mocked him. "Your truth feeds no one." He smiled faintly. "No, but it keeps my soul from starving." Years passed. His hair turned white, his hands rough as sandstone. Yet the light in his eyes never dimmed. Then one night, a great storm rose from the west. Thunder cracked like the voice of Ra, the quarries shook, and as the slaves ran for shelter, the cliffs collapsed in a roar of dust. When dawn came, the camp was silent. They found no trace of Kipper, only a single white feather glistening on the sand, untouched by the storm. The overseers buried it under a stone, perhaps out of superstition. But the desert remembers everything. Millennia passed, dynasties fell, the Nile flowed on, and far above the ancient sands, a new city of noise and light arose, Cairo. There, in a glass tower overlooking the river, sat Layla, a young journalist. Her office buzzed with deadlines and screens. On her desk lay a story, one that could expose corruption or be softened to please her editor. "Change it," he had told her. "Make it cleaner." Truth doesn't sell. Fear does. She stared at the blinking cursor. Her reflection in the screen looked tired, a modern scribe caught in another Pharaoh's court. Then a soft breeze from the open window stirred her papers. A small white feather drifted in from nowhere and settled beside her keyboard. She smiled, uncertain why, and whispered words she had never heard before. "Even the gods cannot read what is unwritten." And she began to type. Her fingers moved slowly at first, then with certainty, shaping sentences that could cost her career. But save her soul, when she hit publish, a strange calm filled her chest. The air felt lighter. The city's noise dimmed. Somewhere beyond the river, in the vast silence of the desert, a whisper rose with the wind, the voice of a scribe who had never died, only waited. Truth never perishes. It only waits for a new hand to write it again. As the night deepened, the Nile glimmered beneath the moon. A single feather floated on its surface, shining like the first light of dawn. The story reminds us that every age has its pharaohs and every soul its weighing. The choice between comfort and conscience never fades. And though the world may not reward truth, the heart always does. For a light heart like Mott's feather never sinks.